Hello and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with your favourite show, Talking Tactics, with my man Gareth, the best football data analyst on Twitter, on YouTube, and also he's had his ideas stolen from him from Monday Night Football. He was telling me so, so he must be doing something right. But yeah, Gareth, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, it's quite a shame because I was doing some analysis on it and then watching Monday Night Football and thinking it's just picked up on about two things, exactly the same thing that I was going to do. But some people might not have seen it, so we'll see how we go.
Yeah, well, as always, mate, you'll bring it better anyway with a hint of Villa. What's the word? Bias as well, which we all love on this channel. Before we go, we are motoring up to 2,600 subscribers, well on the road to 3K. You guys can help us get there by liking and subscribing to the channel. We've obviously got a competition running on Twitter, which is going really well. So head over to @VillaParkPod on Twitter. Check out the pinned tweet. All you need to do is make sure you subscribe to the channel, send us a screenshot in the replies on Twitter, and like and retweet that tweet. And we'll announce the winners on the live match reaction show on Sunday night. So yeah, get yourself in there to win a Villa shirt of your choice. Gareth, before we get into the full analysis, I just wanted your views on, I guess a year under Unai Emery and just the evolution and the kind of football that we're being served up at the moment. We've been saying we're just in dreamland at the moment as Villa supporters.
Yeah, really good. And I think, a big shout out to Dean Smith as well, because we saw it before the game. And, and I think he really did lay them foundations, and it really did. So don't think that should be underestimated. But yeah, to go from where we were when he took over in November to then finish the season in seventh, it was just unbelievable, wasn't it? And
Mm.
I think the form and the way he's got them together in such a short space of time, in theory, was just unbelievable. Considering where we all were, just imagine how we all felt at Fulham. It was just, wasn't it? It was just
Yeah,
abhorrent, and it was the end of the road. And we said it on air at the time. I didn't think Gerrard was the right man at the time. I think it was a bit of a gamble, and it proved to be so. But if you don't try these things, you never know. But yeah, what a year we've had. I mean, how can we? We never thought, would we, at the end at Fulham, that we'd be in Europe, playing in Europe? No way.
exactly. And now fifth in the table, 11 home Premier League wins in a row, scoring 10 goals in the last two games. Yeah, it's just crazy. And I know like we'll get into kind of the passing networks and all that, but like we've been charting it really right from the start. And you said right at the start you would see these kind of passing networks come to fruition more and more as it went on, and now we're kind of seeing that coming true.
Yeah, I think if people look back, especially if, separate them out between home and away games, let's look at the home games. If people track back and look through all our passing networks on all our shows, they will see, as we've just discussed, the transition from different sorts of, from being in a bit low and a little bit cautious to actually having a proper structure where we're building out from the left. We talk about it all the time, and that's coping with injuries as well. So,
Mm.
you may depend. How does Alex Moreno and Emi Buendia, even Jacob Ramsey to an extent, how do they get back in this side?
Mm. Yeah, it we were saying the other night, you got Moreno and Ramsey to come. You look at the impact that Tielemans and Bailey in particular had on off the bench on Sunday. Thinking then if Moreno and Ramsey are on the bench as well, it's a frightening prospect for any team, and it's obviously a great problem for Unai Emery to have.
Yeah, you're almost sort of, it's funny, as a Villa fan, you're almost waiting for it to go pear-shaped, aren't you? You're almost waiting for it to all fall apart, but it's not. It's been consistent, especially since the start of this season. I think I've said it the other day, I think if we can get to January and then sort of maybe add a few additions until January, if we can stay up and sort of up in those upper echelons of the table, if you like, until January, and then build on that a little bit more, I think that'll be really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, let's get into the analysis. So we'll take your Monday Night Football or Sky or B Match of the Day style analysis, and I know it's going to be better. So yeah, you've got quite a few slides to share with us, Gareth. So the first one, how we drew the irons out, how we drew West Ham out. What did we do here?
Yeah, I mean, Carroll sort of touched on this in Monday Night Football. He drew lines from sort of Concert to McGinn, from Powell to Zaniolo, and I've done pretty much the same here, but I've done it in a shape where we can see that 2-2-2 right up the spine of the team. And this is important because what you're trying to do here is you're pushing Kamara closer and a little bit closer and Luis closer to the centre back. You're trying to draw that West Ham out. They were in a 4-2-3-1, started in a 4-1-4-1, and it didn't work. So they changed it to a 4-2-3-1 halfway through the first half. So it was a really different, but this is what you're trying to do. But the main thing is that look how brave your players, Emery, are being on that ball. Look how brave they're receiving that ball, Douglas Luiz, in that tight space. Look at the passing option. Bang, it goes back to Powell. Zaniolo moves out to the side, and you've got two passing options in Digne and Zaniolo. And this is the way forward.
Yeah. Well, we'll go on to the second one here, where you talk about that kind of overloading in midfield, and you wanted to touch on those passing options as well.
Yeah, we're going to see a little bit of progression from these first sort of few slides that were sort of different stages of the build-up, if you like. And Pau Torres, this is why he was brought into the side. Exactly the reason why. He can find those passes. And we're seeing it more and more. The last sort of 3 games, especially against Brighton, especially against West Ham, we're seeing him being able to find those passes. Can you be brave? Can you get that ball into Zaniolo? It's a risky pass. He can even find McGinn there, and he has done in the past, you know. But again, that ball's over the top there to Watkins if he wants it. So even though you're still building up down that left-hand side, you've still got multiple passing options in Zaniolo, Digne, for instance, for Watkins. And we know that we can go a little bit more direct if we need to.
Yeah, 100%. And again, the multiple passes in midfield again there, like not necessarily just Torres, who we've focused on, but Luiz there got multiple passes as well.
That's right. Another sort of stage of the build-up here where we're looking at Pau Torres has sort of regressed a little bit and he's probably passed the ball into Douglas Luiz. Now, I've drawn these arrows from Luiz's vision point, and it gives a little bit of an insight into our minds, how we can sort of see what he could probably see. Again, the ball's on out to Digne. That's not what he's looking for. He's looking for a ball straight into Zaniolo, or he's looking for a ball over the top into Watkins. And this is where we talked about the other week about not being too predictable down the left-hand side and not being too this and that. And that is a progression from that. So we're not seeing that ball. The easy ball is out to Digne. And the easy ball then from Digne is down to Watkins. We're not seeing that. We've seen that change a little bit. And that means that we're giving teams something more to think about when we're in possession of the football.
Yeah, I was just going to say that with regards to kind of that not taking the easy option, because that could have been something we may have been accused of previously, and being a little bit more kind of cautious in our attacks. But Emery is certainly not the case under Emery. But would you say it's down to his coaching and his kind of like I guess needs and what he wants, or is it a case of like the players are now confident enough to kind of choose those options?
Yeah, probably a mixture of both, but probably more the former, I would imagine. Look, we're going to look to try and break lines. We're going to look to try and get the ball into Zaniolo. They expect us to pass it out to Digne on the left-hand side. Let's be braver on the ball. Can we find McGinn and Zaniolo in these two half spaces? It's really important to do that. And look at the spaces between McGinn and Diaby and Zaniolo and Watkins. It's barely anything. It's 10 yards at best. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get all that compact into that centre of the pitch. And we've seen us be a lot more narrow in recent games.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. And then a little focus on our man Moussa Diaby. So, you know, he hasn't necessarily scored, you know, in the last few games, but his influence yesterday, on Sunday was there to behold, and I think he was focused on match of the day as well. So what is he doing?
Well, I don't know if anyone saw the graphic that I posted about him receiving those passes and where he's receiving them passes from and he's making them from. And these are the sorts of areas, but it's more on the right-hand side of we've seen on the graphic that I've seen on posted the other day. But here we've got on the left-hand side, and this is where he's more mobile. Villa are more a 4-4-1-1 when we haven't got the ball. And that's because of them we're able to receive in places like this. And Moussa Diaby is that option. If someone like Douglas Luiz cannot find McGinn or Zaniolo, then he's got Diaby who drops in. You won't really see Ollie Watkins in. He's the last part. He's the long ball option. And this is important. Again, this is where Zaniolo, McGinn and Diaby are receiving more and more passes in these half space areas. And it's because you're behind the lines and it's really easy to create something from there.
And also he's got that, he's almost like a triple threat because he's good with he's a good passer, he's got good vision, he's quick, and you can also beat a man. So you've almost got like a triple problem when he does get the ball.
Yeah, I do think he is more of a counter-attacking threat. I do think
Yeah,
that. I think, like the goal we saw in against Brighton, for the Watkins goal against Brighton, the pace that he showed to get on that ball, and on that counter-attack is really important. And like you say, it's another option, so it's really important.
yeah, definitely. Moving on to kind of that where you've touched on it a little bit, but how effective the McGinn and Zaniolo pivot, as you've called it, and I did think Zaniolo had a really good kind of productive, certainly first 60 minutes.
Yeah, Zaniolo is one of those sort of players. You're either a little bit annoyed by his contribution or you think he's done okay. I think he did okay. I think he could have done a little bit more in those spaces. But again, we're looking at sort of more when you think about the 4-2-2-2 formation. So you're thinking about Kamara and Louise in the defensive positions. You've got McGinn and Zaniolo coming out from inside into these half spaces. Then you've got the two of Watkins and Diaby up top. But what we saw different in this game was that they knew, Villa, that Ward-Prowse had dropped back. So they knew that. So they knew that they would have probably a little bit more time on the ball. They weren't going to be pressured in such situations. And we saw a difference in this game. And the difference was that McGinn came deeper than Zaniolo. You saw them sort of, and you're almost looking at a front three here almost, but you're looking at
Yeah.
it's another person to occupy that defensive line. And we didn't see this against Brighton. McGinn they're trying to get him on the ball in central areas a little bit more. And this was what I mean by the pivot as such.
Yeah. No, I agree. And we're going to come on to the McGinn on the ball in a little bit. But and I'll leave my comment for that. But here is our defensive shape, I guess, and that compact, narrow shape that we're keeping. What was that doing to West Ham?
Yeah, it's a little bit skewed here, and it might be the greatest example because Louise, you would ideally want him sort of right next to Kamara there for that perfect shape to see, but he's obviously just dropped back for some reason. But yeah, we're seeing that 4-4-2, and we're seeing it sort of more and more that it became narrow against West Ham. They didn't seem to be bothered, Villa, by the wider players. And I think we saw a similar sort of thing against Brighton, apart from when Cash was on Matoma quite a bit. But we're seeing this a little bit more where there's a narrow sort of more shape, and the Villa are happy for teams to have it in wider areas. They would rather be more compact.
Mm. And I guess is that like obviously you want to keep your threats wider and keep players in the box. West Ham are a big side, so to put the ball in the box, you probably want more bodies in there to help defend it. But also, when we get the ball, you kind of see how if you're quite tightly packed and then you're kind of moving away into space, all of a sudden that player on the ball has got loads of options to pass to get away on the break quickly.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. And that's what you're trying to do. You're sort of trying to win the ball back in certain areas so that you can then spring into forward certain areas, if you like. And I think West Ham it played into our hands. I have to say, a bit like Brighton did. I think Ward-Prowse, they started with him sort of in the front in the attacking midfield three, and halfway through the first half, they dropped him back alongside Alvarez. Sorry, and they were a little bit better then, but it was like I said, they played into our hands a little bit when West Ham were in possession.
Yeah, totally. Now, the final couple of slides, I think you took talking about getting McGinn on the ball, but this is essentially the build up to Watkins' goal.
Yeah,
But yeah, I love that where McGinn does drop into those areas because he loves that physical battle where he can stick his bump backside out, turn the defender, and obviously he plays that ball really nicely. That's one of his kind of little trademarks. That kind of ball into the space, into like one of the left. This is kind of the inside left channel, but he loves that kind of pass, doesn't he?
yeah. I mean, really, this slide I should have stuck in after the Zaniolo McGinn pivot to show what the reason behind it was. But yeah, like I said to you before, we're seeing it more and more where McGinn's coming into central areas and they would rather push sort of Zaniolo. This is a little bit on a sort of a quick turnover and a transition. It's not the
Yes.
greatest of example, but you can see the reasons as to why McGinn is sort of come to get in these central areas. He's got two passes on there.
Yeah, exactly. And then the one that he does pick is this one, and it obviously turns into the goal. But you look at the spacing behind though, and that's I guess I don't know. This was in the period where West Ham were probably pushing for that goal, and again, this is probably where Emery has got the tactics perfectly. Like get 2-0 up. Obviously, a team goes to 2-1. You don't want that situation to happen, but they're going to be pushing forward anyway. Leave space in behind for Watkins, Diaby, obviously Bailey when he comes on to exploit.
Yes, a simple ploy, isn't it? Really, it's the old sort of 1-2, straight on the counter. And I did sort of have a slide where Villa were doing the same thing here from the same angle, and in the first half, where Villa's high line was like this. Antonio was on the back of sort of Konsa, and Ward-Prowse was on the ball, and they had a similar situation, and they didn't choose to do it. They chose to play the ball out wide to the right hand side, to their right hand side here. So a very different sort of thing. But we're looking to get Watkins in behind. They know what they're doing here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, mate, fantastic analysis there. Really, really good stuff, as always. But yeah, just brilliant stuff there. And if anyone, Jamie Carragher, just eat your heart out, mate, because we've got Gareth. But yeah, brilliant stuff. Guys, do hit that like button, do hit that subscribe button. Help us on the road to 3K. We're motoring to 2,600. So yeah, like and subscribe and help us continue to grow. Little look at our usual slides. So passing networks, as we spoke about before. What are we seeing here in terms of in terms of the passing? Because I can see we controlled a lot of the ball here, and I can see lots of different networks setting up.
And more importantly, look how we controlled midfield. You
Yeah.
got a lot of passes from Kamara and Louise, spreading the ball out to various players. And look at the influence from Louise to McGinn. And this goes back and matches and corresponds with the slides that we saw about McGinn receiving the ball in these types of areas. This is what we want to see. We want to see some correlation from the data to what we're seeing on the eye test. Matches up perfectly. I love it.
Brilliant. And yeah, I just think you look at that, and I know you just said it there, but back previously, it would be very much concentrated down the left, very much concentrated in the right. If there was anything there, it was a lot on the left, particularly when Moreno was playing, and then not much in terms of connection between like Louise and Kamara or McGinn. Now we're seeing those connections between the midfielders as well, which is really interesting.
Exactly that. And we're looking to control games in central areas. And this is important.
Brilliant. Extra expected threat contribution in terms of passes. I guess again, Moussa Diaby picking up the balls in those areas. I know we can pick out a couple of instances where, particularly the chance that Watkins missed. He can obviously pick out really incisive passes.
Exactly that. I do think Emery's starting to sort of look at him a little bit in a different way, like not play him as part of that front two, more as in that 4-1. Is that full, like a number 10, if you like, but with pace, and he can join that front two because he can do it all, Moussa Diaby. And I think we're going to start to see a little bit of a change in how we see Moussa Diaby operate in that system.
Yeah, and also just a word on Douglas Luiz there. He's contributing in terms of threatening passes. He's contributing in terms of goals. He's putting his foot in. At the moment, he's almost a complete midfielder.
Yeah, and he's a confidence player. So, you can clearly see it with him that he needs confidence to be put in him to do these things in possession of the ball. But we shouldn't sort of take it's a team game, and we shouldn't really he could not do the things that he could do without Booba beside him. We shouldn't forget that. It's a partnership, and even though we don't see Booba making fans, he's there for that reason, and it's a fantastic partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. The final two slides, the ones that leave us with the most debate across Twitter, that dreaded XG. We'll all be happy to see this one, though, won't we? Because we obviously smashed West Ham on XG, 2.341, 4 goals. What is not to love?
Yeah, of course, 0.75 of that is the penalty, so we shouldn't forget that. But even so, we created a great deal of chances, and at 0.15 XG per shot, I'll be really happy with that. And to score the 4 goals, exceed the XG is really good. So I hope that pleases all the XG haters out there.
XG is always brilliant when we win by
it.
a lot, and then everyone loves it when we lose, and then or if a team loses and they overperform an XG, and you happen to be the winning team. That's like, well, you lost. The only scoreline that matters was the result, which is right to a certain extent. But if you're looking for positive indicators, you look for the chances that you're creating. That's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, the other day I don't know if anybody saw the tweet about someone talking about over performance. Carol was talking about it again over. And we talked about this like 6 weeks ago and got absolutely blasted for it, didn't we? You know, but it tells you that it comes to fruition. It is what it is. You can love it or you can hate it, but it ends up becoming true, you know. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Quick look at the timeline. Total domination, really.
yeah, really good. And, you know, I'll go back to what we used to see under Stevie G, where we didn't see anything in the first half, but yet sometimes in the second half, we saw a few more chances. And we're seeing that in both halves now. Really good, especially at home. It's a way we just need to be that bit more consistent, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, Gareth, phenomenal, phenomenal analysis there, mate. Really, really good. And it's certainly, you know, the time you put into it and setting it all up for us is much appreciated. So, guys, please do hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Really do help the channel grow, because it's a real treat for us to get Gareth on the channel. Where does everyone find you, mate? Usually on X, as it is now.
You can find me at that Karate JC. Yeah, I just want to quickly say, look out for Pavlidis for Alkmaar on Thursday night. 6
Yeah.
goals in 3 games. You know, he's got a lot of goals, so we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough match. It's interesting because it's very interesting because this Conference League and the Europa League, to a certain extent, it's got some really good teams in it. And like I know we were chatting in the WhatsApp group, you know, there's almost an argument of. I remember back in the 90s when I was a kid, and it was the UEFA Cup was arguably a harder tournament to win than the Champions League, and we're kind of leaning towards that now. You've got some really, really good teams in the Europa League, and that's obviously filtering down to the Conference League as well. So, you know, these teams can't be taken lightly.
No, especially when you see teams like, for instance, Union Berlin in the Champions League, who play wonderful style of football. And it just shows you've only got to finish sort of third or fourth in one of your leagues and have a really good season, and you're there, you know. And like you say, it's a really tricky. Alkmaar are playing very, very well. They're second in the Eredivisie. It's going to be a really tough game out there. So we just need to approach that with a lot of caution, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we'll be back with a match preview for that. Potentially later today, we'll release it on the channel. And also match reaction, of course, preview for Luton on Sunday, and then we'll be back with Gareth on hopefully saying our 12th home win in a row after the Luton game next week. But thank you everyone for watching. As I said, make sure you like and subscribe, and as always, remember, we all follow the Villa. Thanks, everyone.